All right. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining in this webinar series on the Lajjitadi Avastha. Okay. Now, I wanted to, I wanted to do this since a very long time, but then I was waiting for my Saturn Dasha to come in for doing this. Okay. Uh, Currently, I'm running Venus Saturn, and it has been good so far, and I know this is going to be the best period of my life, basically. Okay. So, anyways, Lajjitadi Avasthas, Avasthas, those who have done the astrology class, the foundation class since the very beginning, would know what Avasthas mean. Avastha means a planetary condition. Okay. The state of a planet, how happy or how sad the planet is, or in what condition the planet is there in the horoscope. Okay. And Lajjitadi Avastha is a pure, Parashara concept. Okay. It is there in the BPHS, but Parashara does not mention how to use it. Okay. He goes into bits and pieces, and then all of a sudden he stops this thing. All right. He he quits explaining, and then he leaves it to the reader to know what these avasthas are or how they act. Okay. I'd spoken in brief about Lajjitadi Avastha, but then this is not something that can be explained in a short time of say 5 to 10 minutes. It requires a lot of time. Okay, because if you know what Lajjitadi Avasthas are and how they act and how you can use it to improve your predictive skills, it can take your astrology learning to a whole new level. Okay. And since Parashara does not explain much about it, not much is also there, not much materials are also there on YouTube. Okay, you don't find Lajjitadi Avasthas on YouTube. Okay, so I decided that let's do it. But then I usually keep these things for free because I firmly believe that all Indian knowledge that is there out there, it should be available for free. Of course, some things are not meant to be free, but those things which should be free, I try to keep that free. And then that leads to the psychology that it's something that is free, so it'll be easily available. It's not, basically. Okay, it's that kind of psychology is actually about the ego, which says that I know everything, right? Or you know you know I know everything, that that the free material will not be good, or that the free material will not be up to the mark as compared to the paid material. And then what happens is people take up a paid class, and then they realize that they don't learn anything at all. Okay, I've seen a lot of people who have taken up paid classes and they haven't learned anything. And then those people have come to me privately and said that they have learned much more from my jyotish classes. Okay, of course it's not my jyotish class, jyotish is for everyone, but this is what happens. All right, so free things are not valued. But anyways, those who have to learn or those who are meant to learn will learn, and those who are not meant to learn, they will stay behind. This is not a complaint or not a rant, but a general observation that I have seen over the last few years of teaching Vedic astrology, keeping most of the things for free. Okay, but anyways, let's get straight to the topic. Okay, so Lajjitadi Avastha. All right, it is Shriken Rao, he calls it the heart of Parashara. Okay, and it's all about how fulfilled the a particular planet is feeling. All right, and we don't consider Rahu and Ketu in Lajjitadi Avasthas except for a few bits and pieces. But anyways, it's an ocean, basically. Okay, it's an ocean, basically. And we'll take a as I said in the announcement poster, we will take a deep dive into this. Okay, so let's begin. Yes, so each planet will crave the fulfillment of its goals. Okay, and the fulfillment of goals would be signified by its inherent nature, and it will be lived out by the bhavas that it rules. Okay, so each planet that is there in the chart is trying to fulfill a certain agenda. All right, and that agenda is shown by what bhava is it ruling. Okay, not sign but bhava. All right. So I repeatedly tell this to my students that bhavas are more important than signs. All right. So for example, for Cancer ascendant, Saturn rules the 7th and the 8th, right? So there is a certain agenda that Saturn is trying to fulfill by its rulership of the 7th and 8th houses. Okay, that is what I mean by the fulfillment of its goal. Okay, now this fulfillment of a planet is the result of following natural laws of spiritual, emotional, energetic, and physical living. Okay, so when you follow the laws that align you spiritually, emotionally, energetically, and physically, then you get fulfillment. Okay, and what is the opposite of fulfillment? It is disease. Okay, disease is just the lack of fulfillment. And diseases that are of are of three types: physical disease, which in which there is a lack of fulfillment from the body. Yes, you want to do something, but then you are not able to do something because you have a disease in the body. Okay, that is physical disease. Then there is emotional disease, which implies lack of fulfillment emotionally or mentally. Okay, for example, you get a raise or you get a promotion, or maybe you get a large sum of money all of a sudden, but you're not able to enjoy it because you have some kind of emotional imbalance. Okay, and this is something that is there in all of us. Right, emotional imbalance is there in all of us. It's only the radius that varies, but if you want to be happy, you have to be emotionally fulfilled. Okay, so there is a program that I offer which is known as the ESC, emotional state control. And if you want to learn more about that program, you can obviously ping me directly. Okay, but anyways, that is not the topic of discussion for this class. And then there is this energy disease, which is very, very common, but then people don't even know that it exists. Okay, so all of life is energy. This body is energy, and if your energy is out of balance, then you have a disease which is called energy disease. All right, for example, say you are you know you you start at your home, you wake up in the morning, and then you decide that I want to go to the supermarket to get something to prepare a cake for my, say, sorry about that. Say you get up in the morning, and then suddenly you have an idea that you want to prepare a cake for your spouse, and then you decide that, okay, let me go to the supermarket, which is, say, 10 kilometers away, and get the materials or the ingredients that are required for the cake. And then you go to the supermarket, you have the physical health to do it. You are very emotionally, you are very emotional about getting those ingredients because maybe it's your spouse's birthday. And then you are about to reach the supermarket, and then all of a sudden you see this truck which is completely speeding at you. Okay, the truck has lost maybe the truck has lost its brake, or just a minute, let me come and have some water. Just hold on. Yeah, so as I said, so suppose this truck is coming to you at a great speed. Maybe it is coming to collide with you. Maybe the driver has lost the balance of the truck, and so on. Okay, and then you know you find a way to move out of its range. Okay, now if you are energetically fulfilled, you will apply the brakes at the right time, or you'll just steer the wheel just the right amount of, you'll steer the wheel just at the right amount to avoid colliding with the truck, and then the truck goes on and hits something else or does not do anything else. That is not our concern. Okay, but if you're diseased energetically, all of a sudden you may find yourself braking too hard, that actually causes the car in the back to come and crash against you. Or maybe by seeing the truck coming towards you, you're frozen. Yes, you're frozen all of a sudden, and then the truck collides nevertheless, and then you end up in the hospital. So that is also some kind of energy disease, because the flight or fight response did not work when it should have in case of you. Okay, so for fulfillment to happen, all these three things have to work in tandem. Okay, you must be spiritually fulfilled, you must be emotionally fulfilled, you must be energetically as well as physically fulfilled. Okay. And even spiritual fulfillment, if I have to tell you, okay, there are some people who believe that, my religion is the best religion. Don't only tell this that, it is applicable to the Abrahamic religions. It is also found, within many sects of Hinduism. The Vaishnavites feel that, they are spiritually superior to the Shaivites, or there are some Shaktas who feel that they are superior to everything. Their philosophy or ideology is superior to everything. So all these things, they indicate a lack of spiritual fulfillment. Okay. So fulfillment is possible, as I said, if you are fulfilled spiritually, if you're fulfilled emotionally, energetically, and physically. Okay. And if you're not following, if your life does not follow these laws, it will result in a, in a life which is particularly wasted, full of disappointments, has a disordered way of living. And of course, the manifestation of everything is illness. Okay. So the Lajjitadi Avasthas that Parashara mentions in the BPHS, they reveal, they reveal these natural laws in an astrological language. Okay, while also allowing us to see how each person is, how each person is living in accordance with these laws. Yes. Are you living in accordance with, are you actually fulfilled? Yes. Do you have spiritual fulfillment? Do you have emotional fulfillment? Do you have energetic fulfillment? Okay. Or are you detrimental to, these kinds of fulfillment? Yes. Are you, are you detrimental? Are you against being fulfilled emotionally? Are you against being fulfilled spiritually? And so on. Okay. Now, uh in astrology, okay, in astrology, as astrologers, we often put a great emphasis on the bhavas in which planets are located, their dignities, whether they are in, for example, moon located in the fourth house, we call it as, as very dignified because it ends digbala. Or Venus located in the 10th house is not good because it indicates dikshunya. Yes. What kind of yogas are they forming? you know are they receiving any influence from benefics or malefics? Okay. So as astrologers, we put a great emphasis on these factors. Okay. But then what is very important to consider, according to Parashara, are the influences that a planet receives from its friends and enemies. Okay. How is a planet being influenced by its friends, or how are the enemies influencing a particular planet? Okay. And this is where the Lajjitadi Avasthas come in. Okay. They tell you about the planetary influences that a certain planet has from other planets, and everything else, it revolves around the principles and effects of the Lajjitadi Avasthas. Okay. Which is to say, everything revolves largely around the effects of the influence between friendly and inimical planets. Okay. And the fact that there are inimical and friendly planets that may affect each other lets us know that there are ways that planets can interrupt each other and create discord in our lives. Okay. For example, you may have an exalted Jupiter or a very well placed Jupiter, and then your Jupiter Dasha has started and you're very optimistic about life because we have studied in the Jyotish foundation class that Jupiter Dasha makes you very, very optimistic. Yes. So you may have a great optimism because you are starting Jupiter Dasha and Jupiter is very well placed. But then you may find this Jupiter being, receiving a direct influence, say from Mercury, even though Mercury is a benefic, or say this Jupiter is directly receiving an influence from Saturn. Okay. So this is where the agenda of Jupiter gets interrupted. Okay. And that can create real discord in our lives. Okay. And so as I taking considering these examples, Jupiter was supposed to give you happiness, but because of the influence of Saturn, or because of the influence of Mercury, all of a sudden it can become the primary cause of sorrow in our lives. Okay, and this is something that we will actually understand when we go into the Lajjitadi Avastha in details. Okay. Now, since each planet has several friendly planets, for example, the Sun is friendly towards Jupiter, Mars, and so on. Saturn is friendly towards Mercury, Venus, and so on. Okay, so since each planet has several friendly influences, so what happens is if there is a favorable Lajjitadi Avastha, the planet, such a planet, will get a lot of supportive influence from a friend. Okay, from a friend. That means from another friendly planet. And when such supportive influence is obtained, it indicates a healthy strategy towards life that will result in a lot of fulfillment. Okay. Similarly, if a planet is being influenced by a lot of enemy planets, then there is always an element of unhealthy strategies that will result in disappointments and pains. Okay. So there may be charts where a lot of powerful planets are there in good dignity, forming strong yogas. But then, even those people, will suffer from lack and disappointments due to some unfavorable Lajjitadi Avastha if they exist in the chart. Okay. So a bad Lajjitadi Avastha will always indicate a lack of fulfillment. Okay. A bad Lajjitadi Avastha will always indicate disappointment. Yes, why disappointment? Because your dreams and goals will not get fulfilled by that planet. Okay, if it is in bad Lajjitadi Avastha. Okay, so the goal of life is to be happy. Okay, that is the goal of life. Now, this is not a hedonistic worldview. Okay, some people would say that, oh my God, you are being hedonistic when you say that the goal of life is to obtain happiness. No, I'm not being hedonistic. Yes, when people ask you, who are you cannot, if you ask that question to yourself, you cannot answer that. Yes, who am I? Okay, this is a very spiritual question when people ask you, who are you? And this has been asked since a lot of time. Ramana Maharishi was very famous for putting this question to each question as a counter question to each question that he received. Yes, a lot of people used to gather around Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi, and they used to ask him countless questions, and he always used to counter it with the same question: who are you? Yes, who are you? And find that out. All right. And then there was Nisargadatta Maharaja, who was a very prominent spiritual bigwig from Maharashtra, and he came up with the concept of I am that. Yes, I am that. But again, he could not actually answer it to our satisfaction. Yes. So then Muji, I don't know how many of you have heard about Muji. He is he is from the US. Just hold on to your scope. Yes. So there's Muji who, who again asks you to just close your eyes and ask yourself this question: who am I? And then he asks you to take pleasure at all the answers that the brain tries to throw up. Okay. But then you don't have to you don't have to undergo a lot of spiritual training to answer who am I. I'll tell you the answer right away. Who are you cannot be known. Okay. You cannot be defined. Okay. Just like a camera cannot take a picture of itself, so you cannot be defined by yourself. Okay. Who are you cannot be known. That is the answer. Okay. But you must know that you are a pleasure seeking being. Okay. And this is something that needs no validation. Don't take my word for face value. We all are pleasure seeking beings. Okay. Whatever we do it for the sake of seeking pleasure. Yes, it could be a guilty pleasure also, but whatever people do, whether they have sex, whether they do drugs, whether they consume alcohol, whether they go on that road trip, whether they start a family, whether they have a baby, whether they get into a relationship, whether they break up from a relationship, it's all for the sake of gaining pleasure. Yes. So you are a pleasure seeking being, and that is the reason I'm saying that, happiness is the goal of life. Okay. And since only the Lajjitadi Avasthas reveal the attitudes and behaviors that result in happiness or unhappiness, so Parashara says that Lajjitadi Avasthas are the single most important factor to analyze the horoscope. And this is the reason why Shri K.N. Raoji says that Lajjitadi Avasthas are the heart of the BPHS, the book BPHS. Okay. So any doubt still here? Any part that you did not understand? No doubt. Cool. Let's go forward. Yes. So now in the 11th chapter of the BPHS, which is of course the chapter on Graha Avasthas. Okay. So what Parashara says that Parashara mentions 6 states of the planets. Okay. Parashara mentions 6 states of the planet. The first state is the Lajjita Avastha, Lajjit. Okay. The second state is the Garvita Avastha. Then there is the Shuddhit Avastha. Then there is the Trishita Avastha. Then there is the Mudit Avastha. And finally, you have the Shobhit Avastha. Okay. But we'll, as this class implies, we'll focus our discussion only on the Lajjitadi Avastha. Okay. So Lajjit Adi. Okay, Lajjit Adi. The word is actually a combination of 2 other words, Lajjit and Adi. Okay. Lajjit means ashamed. Okay. And Adi means etc. So it implies the conditions of which the planet is ashamed of. Okay. And that means it implies the conditions of, of which you will be ashamed due to the influence of the planets. Okay. And why are the planets called grahas? Because they eclipse our thinking, they eclipse our mind. And what is eclipse? Eclipse, the Sanskrit word for eclipse is grahan, grahana basically. So that entity which causes grahana in our thinking, that is called, that is called graha. Okay. So it's it's not only, graha does not only imply a planet, it implies a lot of other things, if I could put it that way. All right. Grahana is that which eclipses or seizes or grabs or grasps your mind. Okay. And you can look at any graha. Okay. You can look at any graha placed anywhere. So wherever it is placed, from that place, it is eclipsing your mind. Okay. And the highest eclipse occurs to the moon because it signifies the mind. So if you don't have any planets conjunct the moon, then congratulations. Your mind is far less eclipsed as compared to those who have, planets conjunct with the moon. Okay. So for example, say for Capricorn ascendant, moon is conjunct with Mars. In that case, Mars rules the 4th house and the 11th house. So the person will always be concerned with property, always concerned with income and gains and so on. Okay. Similarly, say for Leo ascendant, moon is, conjunct with Saturn. In that case, the person will always be worried about 6th house affairs, which is Rogrin and Shatru. That means enemies, deaths, and diseases. And also the 7th house, which of course indicates partners. Okay, it could be a business partner too. But these are the things that the person will be really concerned about in his lifetime. Okay. Now Parashara expands further on this statement. Okay. He says that the other avasthas are nothing but part of the Lajjitadi avasthas. Okay. He mentions Lajjita avastha first because the first avastha in the group is called Lajjita. Okay. That is what Parashara says. I'm mentioning Lajjita avastha first and the other avasthas later on because they are also a part of Lajjita, the avastha. Okay. So there are 6 avasthas in the Lajjita group. Number 1 is the Lajjit itself, which is of course ashamed. Then there is Garvita, which is proud. Then there is Shuddhita, which is starved. Okay, that means you're starved for something, you're starved for water, you're starved for food, and so on. Then there is Trishita, which is thirsty. Then there is Mudita, which is delighted. And finally, there is Shobhita, which is agitated. Okay, so these are the Sanskrit terms for these, for these words. Okay, and you can use these terms in day-to-day Sanskrit also. All right. So, in accordance to with these six avasthas, the individual will actually feel ashamed, or healthily proud, or starved, or thirsty, or delighted, or agitated with their life. Okay. Now we have to, look at Lajjitadi Avasthas and the natural relationships of planets. Okay, because this is very important. While analyzing Lajjitadi Avasthas, you have to pay a very close attention to the natural relationships between the planets. Okay, so for the sun, what are the friendly planets? Don't consider Rahu and Ketu. Okay, because as I said, the nodes don't offer much value while learning Lajjitadi Avasthas. All right, so we are considering the Saptagrahas, or the 7 planets. Okay, so for the sun, the friendly planets are, of course, Moon, Mars, Jupiter. Mercury is neutral for the sun, and enemies are Venus and Saturn. Okay, so this is from the BPHS. All right, now don't come and tell me, I have read this, and I have read this, that the sun is this and the sun is that. No, it's not that. Okay, friend, for the sun, the friendly planets are Moon, Mars, and Jupiter. Mercury is neutral, and Venus and Saturn are enemies. Okay, similarly for the moon, sun and Mercury are friendly. Okay, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn are neutral, and the moon does not have any enemies. Okay, this is very, very important to understand the moon. All right, the moon does not have any enemies, so it means that the moon is the planet which is going to be least affected by the Lajjitadi Avasthas. Okay, it has only 2 friends, sun and Mercury. The others are neutral. Okay, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn are neutral. Right, so how many of you thought that Saturn is the enemy of the moon? So this is a misconception. Okay, Saturn is not the enemy of the moon. In fact, the moon does not have any enemies. Okay, it can hang out with each and every planet. Okay, so as I said, since the moon does not have any enemies, it is the last planet that you think can be impacted by Lajjitadi Avasthas. But if it gets impacted, or if it gets afflicted, you will run into a lot of problems, okay, which are very, very difficult to rectify. And the moon gets afflicted due to the modern lifestyles that we have. Okay, what are the side effects of the modern living? Less sleep, yes. More screen time, yes. More eating out at restaurants, okay. More access to entertainment. Okay, so all these are the things that can cause a lot of affliction to the moon. And if the moon gets afflicted, then it's very, very difficult to heal the moon. Okay, it's very, very difficult to heal the moon if it gets afflicted, because if the moon gets afflicted, then who is the devata for the moon? The devata for the moon is Varuna. Okay, that is the devata for the moon. Now, Varuna was a very important god during the Vedic period. He has lost his importance now in the age that we are living in. But Varuna, it does not indicate god of the ocean, as many people think. It does not indicate the god of water. It indicates a deity that covers everything. Okay, that has everything and everyone under it itself. Okay, that is Varuna. So in the body, what has everything under itself? In your body, what has everything under yourself? It's the blood. Okay, so if the moon gets afflicted, the blood will also get afflicted. Blood related problems will come to you. Okay, so once the blood gets afflicted, your skin will start getting afflicted. So skin related problems will come to you. So these are all indicators of the moon getting afflicted, but such cases are very, very rare. Okay, then we have Mars. The friendly planets are Sun, Moon, and Jupiter. The enemy planets are Venus and sorry, the neutral planets are Venus and Saturn, and the enemy planet is Mercury. Okay, so you look at Mars and Mercury, they are always arch enemies. Okay, if you look at Gemini and Virgo ascendants, Mars rules the difficult houses. If you look at, Scorpio or Aries ascendant, Gemini or Mercury rules the difficult houses. Okay, then we have Mercury, so very friendly is Sun and Venus, and neutral is Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, and the moon is inimical. Okay, so Mercury does not consider the moon to be its enemy, but the moon considers Mercury to be its enemy. Okay, so Mercury is the illegitimate child of the moon. Okay, and because he did not get his fatherly love, that is the reason Mercury wants the moon away from himself or itself. All right, then we have Jupiter, so the friendly planets are Sun, Moon and Mars. Saturn is neutral, but the enemies are Mercury and Venus. Okay, then we have Venus, so the friendly planets are Mercury and Saturn. Mars and Jupiter are neutral, and Sun and Moon, they are inimical. Okay, so for Saturn, Mercury and Venus are friendly, Jupiter is neutral, Sun, Moon and Mars are inimical. Okay, so this is what Parashara says. All right, so any doubt till here? Okay, so let's stop here today. Okay, let's stop here today, and in the next class, this is going to continue. All right, guys, this is going to continue. We'll be doing it every Wednesday, and if you cannot join it live, then I always encourage you to watch the recordings. So next we will be quantifying avasthas with the strengths of Parashara's principles as to how avastha, or how the Lajjitadi Avastha is influenced by the planetary strengths that are the rules for which have been laid down by Parashara. Okay, so let's end it for today, and thank you for joining in. It's a weekday, and I really appreciate all of you, at least joining in for this class. And this is going to be a fun course, basically. Okay, don't take it to be a very serious course. It's going to be really, really fun, and I hope you have a lot of fun learning, just as I know I'll have a lot of fun teaching this. All right, so thank you everyone, and I'll see you next Wednesday for this webinar. Namaste.